just joined us on the System After Dark, this is a homegrown number courtesy of E3 and Cracker. Bulla, how's it going? I'm D, your host on the System After Dark, right here on Today FM. Today's hit music. You can catch me weeknights at 7 p.m. That's from Monday to Friday, only on the home of Today's hit music. And don't forget, that's D with you every weeknight on the System After Dark. Even got that homebrew flowing.
Good evening, this is FBC News. I'm Jackie Spate. In the news tonight, more than 4,000 calls received by Child Helpline. Local manufacturers pleased with economic growth. And Mombasa cane lorry drivers frustrated with delays. A 5-year-old was the youngest to call for help using the government's 1325 Child Helpline. In 7 months, the service set up by the Ministry of Women and Children has received more than 4,000 calls. Shireen Lata with the story.
Good afternoon, this is the Child Helpline.
This helpline runs from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, ready to help children in any way possible. Of the 4,000 calls, most dealt with stress levels, sexual and physical abuse, challenges faced in schools, attitude of teachers and friends.
We have identified that neglect, which is a form of abuse, neglect is on a high rate right now because of other children who are being neglected in their daily needs and as well as schools and other things.
The helpline is run by Medical Services Pacific, which has a team of counselors on hand to receive calls. Project manager Pedi Balendro Kandroka says it's difficult to win the trust of the children and get them open up about problems. Most of the calls are coming from the Central Division, which is then referred to the Ministry of Children for further action.
Holistic approach has been provided for our internal referrals. So we do follow up and we continue to counsel them and continue to refer them to medical if they need to go to medical, or if legal assistance, they are encouraged to go to legal as well for further case management.
The helpline also receives queries from adults as well. Most want to know about adoption, some report missing children. Other grown-up are interested in mental health care, child care advice and positive parenting tips. Shireen Lata, FBC News.
The Fiji Manufacturers Association has welcomed Fiji's strong economic performance. The FMA says it's encouraging to note that the Fijian economy is rising at a healthy GDP growth rate of 5%. Ritika Pratap reports.
The Fiji Manufacturers Association Interim President Dakshesh Patel says the manufacturers feel the 5.3% growth in 2014 is due to the economic policy of encouraging local companies and promoting Fijian-made.
This seems to be quite an outstanding achievement. So we are very pleased about the economic GDP growth rate at the moment, and this augurs well for the private sector and indeed well for the government and many other people. It should be good for employment as well as for the economy.
Patel says the manufacturing sector in Fiji contributes up to 14% to GDP growth. He says Fiji's successive above 4% economic growth has boosted the confidence of many manufacturers.
We have seen many members starting with new projects, increasing capacity, building additional capacity within the existing manufacturing business. Many are starting new manufacturing activities. And indeed, there are manufacturers who are running world-class manufacturing businesses here, which are also servicing developed markets within the region, such as mainly Australia and New Zealand, and some even West Coast US.
Patel says the current economic policy has made a positive impact on the sector, and they hope it will continue.
Manufacturing sector is still subject to many constraints, and we have raised those with the government, and I'm sure we are all working towards making it a better place for manufacturers.
The association adds the government should continue strong investment in infrastructure to build more efficient services in ports, roads, water and electricity. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
Sugarcane lorry drivers are frustrated with delays at the Lambasa sugar mill. The Lorry Drivers Association claims some of their members spend half the day waiting for their load to be tipped.
Some of these drivers wait up to 8 hours to deliver one load of sugarcane to the mill. There are no facilities for the drivers, nor a place to rest.
There are a lot of difficulties that we are facing in the morning. We are here to deliver the cane and it takes a lot of time because of the long queue. There are many drivers who have to wait for long hours. The poor drivers bring 1 meal per day. They come in the evening and they return back in the morning. And back in the field, the cane farmers also get frustrated waiting for their truck.
Mohammed Janab says some drivers even miss out on their meals, be it lunch or dinner, while waiting in line. He adds things wouldn't be so bad if the Fiji Sugar Corporation provided some basic amenities.
We have raised these issues to our authorities, but nothing is happening. There is no light here and we do not have convenience facilities in the area. The drivers struggle a lot. We have talked about this over and over again, but it makes no difference. We have been meeting authorities of FSC, but we only get promises.
The mill has been running for about 3 months now, and the drivers claim problem has existed since the beginning of the crushing season. Attempts made by FBC News to get comments from Fiji Sugar Corporation Executive Chairman Abdul Khan were unsuccessful. Shriti Prasad, FBC News.
An $85 million transformation of the Pearl Resort in Pacific Harbour is now complete. Prime Minister Vorengem Bainimarama opened the new facilities and told investors from Papua New Guinea that his government appreciates investments which provide more jobs. Chanel Sivan reports.
It was a grand event, the opening of what could be called a piece of heaven on earth.
Most saw the Pacific Harbour as a sleeping town. The Pearl Resort at times had low occupancy and was in a desperate need of upgrade. We saw the Pacific Harbour differently. We saw unrealized potential and a means to harness an underdeveloped opportunity. We saw the Pearl as our next gold mine.
The new wing has 130 rooms, a fine dine restaurant, conference facilities, a spa and a chapel. The multi-million-dollar project was made possible by Mineral Resources Development Company based out of Papua New Guinea. The resort employs 134 people.
Any investment on this scale is significantly boosting the number of jobs our people need to care for themselves and their families, as well as, of course, contributing to the overall well-being of the national economy.
A colorful fireworks display was a highlight of the launch, which also included dances and Fijian music. Tourism in Fiji has grown by 9.5% compared to this period in 2014, and investments such as this will only lead to more benefits.
The sky's the limit in terms of tourism. I think this will inject a lot of activity and promote Pacific Harbour. I think Nandi and the western side is doing very well, and obviously the next wave of tourism I think is going to be in the capital.
The Pearl Resort has now 207 rooms available in anticipation of more tourists flocking to this side of the island for their holiday getaway. Chanel Shivan, FBC News.
Still ahead on FBC News, Successful Fijians takes a look at the life of flying Fijian Netani Tale.
Kita boleh guna siapa tu mai, hena guna baru taki na yan rubangi kebika. Na mau to mai buka tali tu na bisere waraki muni na guna baru taki ngo na yan rubangi enam pula FM. Nimbolo benaka, oya wabika na isoro ranyo na tomani o mai na vito na kabiki na tini karuai nong bangi lebu. Ena guna baru taki sekoya na yan rubangi enam pula FM, enam bandua, ena serra.
The Ministry of Social Welfare is going to raise awareness about the family law bill in the next few weeks. Rosie Akbar says her action is in response to the recent spate of attacks on elderly people. Maggie Boyle tells us more.
In August August, an 87-year-old man was allegedly killed in his home. A 74-year-old woman allegedly raped while alone at her house. And in Nandi, an elderly couple were left destitute after falling out with their children. These are just a few cases that have prompted Minister for Women Rosie Akbar to take action.
We are just going to create more awareness on the family law bill which we have in place, where parents can claim for maintenance from their children, and children on the other hand can claim maintenance from their parents if they are neglected or abused. So that is something that we are looking at from that angle as well, whereby we try to sort of enforce this law if we have to.
And while the ministry is trying to be more vigilant, Akbar is urging members of the public to play their part.
We do encourage reporting of such incidents. We do not want these incidents to occur within homes, whether it's elderly, whether it's disabled, whether it's the mentally challenged, whether it's our women, girls and children. We encourage reporting, and we will work with the various law enforcement agencies to see that we progress in this regard, because we do not want to have a new breed of generation which does not respect the elderly.
The ministry reiterating that violence against elderly persons will not be tolerated, and that the ministry will be doing all in their power to be able to tackle the issue. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
A special fund has been set aside by the Ministry of Agriculture to rehabilitate farms and meet the high demand of beef. Permanent Secretary Rai Waimbutha says this is part of their development program. Savara Tambua has more.
Most existing farmers will be assisted through the program, encouraged to breed cattle for meat.
This particular program is specifically targeted in increasing numbers of cattle, improving the breeds that they have, and also assist in some way or the other in terms of fencing, and also some of the stockyard that needs to be constructed to round off the animals.
Waimbutha says with the right techniques and some effort, premium local beef should be readily available, providing farmers with an additional revenue source. He adds some farmers won't have money to invest in their farms, so the ministry will take care of rehabilitating existing pastures.
Pasture has already been established in this area, so it's just a matter of organizing farmers and seeing how well we can better utilize this resource to get back the stock into this area so that we increase the numbers.
Beef farming is a priority due to the high cost of importing the product from New Zealand. The ministry plans to rehabilitate some of the old farms in Verata, Yalavo, Naitutu and others in Ryan Teilebu. Sabera Tambua, FBC News.
Nathani Tale is one of the most capped players in the Flying Fijian squad to the Rugby World Cup in England. Tonight in our Successful Fijian segment, we take a look at his development as one of the most formidable flankers Fiji Rugby has ever produced.
Successful Fijians is brought to you by the Fiji Development Bank, your partner in progress.
With family links to Tailevu and maternal ties to Kandavu, Nathani Tale is a Suva boy, having grown up in Raiwanga and played school rugby for the Morris Brothers High School up to the under-18 stage. And that really is where his love of rugby grew.
Everyone asks me, it's quite funny because growing up I didn't think I was going to become a rugby player because I was more of an athlete. I used to do middle distance and long distance running, and going to school, and then you look at your peers, and they're just like the same age, but they're like bigger than you, and you're like, I'm not going to be a rugby player because look at the size of these boys, and you know, when you have this kind of color, they tend to pick on you as well, and you know, I was just like, no, I'm not going to. Well, I'll try and play rugby, but I'm not going to progress and become a professional rugby player, and that's one thing that, you know, was stuck in my head until I went to Morris Brothers, and all the boys were playing rugby, and I was just like, right, I will try rugby this year, but I think I'm too skinny to play rugby.
Once he'd had a taste of rugby, there was no going back. Tale took up intense training under the guidance of his father and went on to play rugby for Suva and Lanonga. It hasn't been easy, however. Rugby is both physically and mentally demanding.
The main challenges is injuries. You know, I've had quite a few injuries, and you know, and I'm blessed to be where I am today because 9 months ago I had an operation, and you know, I was told, right, maybe it could be, you know, career ending for you, but I stayed strong mentally, prepared myself for this, trained myself, and I was like, I'm going to come back and play the sport I love. And I had the motivation from my close friends, my family, my kids.
Once he was out of hospital, Tale says he got back to training and was eventually called to try out for the Harlequin 15s club in England. After 10 games, he's just signed a 2-year contract.
The highlight in my career is my second year in Edinburgh Rugby. We reached the semi-finals, and in every game I played, I got man of the match 4 consecutive times, and even reaching semi-finals in European rugby was the highlight of my career. Personally, my aim is to try and help the boys reach the quarterfinals or whatever finals. People say it's a pool of death. I disagree. We've heard a lot of our boys saying it's the pool of opportunities. We just have to go out and make our nation proud. Put on that white jersey and think that we're playing for our nation, our family, our kids, and everyone that supports Fiji rugby.
Successful Fijians was brought to you by the Fiji Development Bank, your partner in progress.
Coming up in FBC Sports, Flying Fijians work on perfecting set pieces, and Sandbury overshadowed with Fijian colours.
रात को सपने तो जरूर आए होंगे। ये सपने क्या कहते हैं?
और बस थोड़ी ही देर में देखेंगे कि आज आपकी किस्मत के सितारे करते हैं क्या इशारे।
नई आशाएं और हौसले भरी सुबह की सुहानी शुरुआत करें हमारे साथ। मैं आपकी हमसफर मोहिनी
और मैं दीप्ति। सोमवार से शुक्रवार सुबह 6 से 9 तक
रेडियो फीजी 2 देश की धड़कन पर।
Perfect set-piece plays will lay the platform for the Vodafone Flying Fijians against the bigger nations at this Rugby World Cup. These are the words coming out of camp as the time draws nearer for the first match against England. Indra Singh has more from London.
Squeeze, press out. Pushing on, and not just any push, it's about perfecting set-piece plays such as the scrums in the build-up to the first match.
Look, we've really focused in on what's required around the set plays for the Rugby World Cup now, and putting the fine detail in that.
No matter what he said, other nations always seem to feed off the fact that the Fijian set plays are sometimes the Achilles heel, but they could be in for a surprise this tournament.
You'll see we had a referee here with us yesterday looking closely at some aspects of around the maul and the maul defence, so we're very effective in that area, but careful not to infringe on the laws.
It was hard work at training in London, a city classed as the theatre of dreams. But dreams have no place in the sport of rugby, and this team knows it too well.
Oh, it's the morale in the camp is good so far. The boys are just focusing on their task.
With a break from training today, there is still unconstructed work remaining, with 5 days out from the opener.
From Monday, just really focus in on the fine detail around the specifics of our game plan for the England match.
Another day and another training session by our Vodafone Flying Fijians done and dusted. It's now countdown to next week, and today, as the players showed, the camaraderie in team will play a key role to Rugby World Cup 2015. The very best and the very latest from the coaching staff is what is driving these boys ahead of the big game against England next week. Indra Singh, FBC Sports.
We now cross live to London and join FBC Sports Editor Indra Singh. Good evening, Indra. What's the team up to right now?
Very much, Jackie. Good evening, definitely in Fiji. It's a very good morning from London, the city where the Rugby World Cup fever has gripped London. Everywhere you go, people are talking about the big game that's coming up next Friday here, our time, and next Saturday morning, Fijian time, when the Flying Fijians take on England. The Flying Fijians today, later on, it's Sunday here. Sunday morning, we'll be taking part in a prayer session. It's a lotu, as they call it, within team camp, and then they will have a break, and all the players have been told to go out, meet families, friends, and just relax their minds. Coach John Maki wants a very happy and relaxed players as they build up or start the preparations tomorrow on the final stretch to the Rugby World Cup. It's very interesting just listening and reading and watching on TV here in London. All the focus seems to have shifted all of a sudden to our Flying Fijians. The media here are trying to get as much as possible out of the Flying Fijians camp, but our coaching staff know what is to be said and what's not. Everyone reckons it's just because that Fiji is taking on England, there's so much interest and hype. The Fijian community as well, talking to a few of them earlier on, are all geared up. They want to be part of this big historic occasion. 82,000 capacity stadium stop. Twickenham will be sold out when Fiji runs onto the field, and it's going to be very exciting. As I mentioned earlier on, that it's rest day today for the players. And another interesting factor, as mentioned by John McKee in the item just previous to this, where Alan Roland, the former international referee, has been helping them out in their scrums, in particular the giving away of penalties in the mall area, etc. He's been driving the points through to minimize the mistakes and penalty counts before the big game against England. The English team was welcomed yesterday in London, official welcome ceremony, and they look ready. But as the players say, they can't count Fiji out. We'll be keeping you updated with the very best as the week progresses. And as we know, everyone's expecting a bumper of a crowd and a brilliant performance by the Flying Fijians. Back to you, Jackie.
Thanks so much for that, Indra. Meanwhile, the Fijian fever has truly gripped Sunbury, where the side is based. Stephen Naismith was Everton's hat-trick hero against Chelsea as they beat the Premier League champions 3-1 at Goodison Park. In another epic encounter, traditional giants Manchester United got their league campaign straightened with a 3-1 win at home against Liverpool. In other matches played today, Manchester City beat Crystal Palace 1-0 while Arsenal defeated Stoke City 2-0. Cloudy but fine, cool weather conditions were experienced over the country today. A trough of low pressure lies slow moving over the southern parts of Tuvalu, Tokelau and Samoa. A cool and dry south to southeast wind flow prevails over the southwest Pacific region. In temperatures, it was scorching hot in Mombasa today, which both recorded 31 degrees this afternoon. Other centres were in the high 20s. Tomorrow's forecast is for fine conditions with cloudy periods in the afternoon. And the further outlook is for brief showers over the eastern parts and interior of the larger islands, fine elsewhere, cool at night. Southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, moderate to rough seas. And the main points again, more than 4,000 children have called the child helpline set up by the government seeking counselling. Cane lorry drivers are frustrated with delays in crushing at the Lambasa sugar mill, and Pearl Resort in Pacific Harbour opens $85 million development project. Time for our poll question. This week we're asking, is enough being done to prevent suicides in the country? Visit our FBC website to take part. Remember, you can send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email citizenseyes@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via Facebook page, FBC News. And if you're on Twitter, follow and tweet us your news tips at FBC_news or simply #FBC News. You've been watching FBC News. I'm Jackie Spade. Good night.